We're live.
All right, thank you everyone for your patience. We are picking our work back up on the elections bill, and we would like to move into testimony from the Clerks and Treasurers Association. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing us back after town meeting week. That was very helpful.
How was your town meeting week?
Mine wasn't bad. We don't, we do everything from the floor. So, for the record, my name is Chelsea Maguire. I'm with the Vermont Clerks and Treasurers Association. So the last time we were here, you wanted more information on how the clerks who are members of our association felt about doing the audits of their checklist. And so I put out another survey. We have approximately 150 members and I got 127 responses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was phenomenal.
Wow, that's a big feedback arc.
And 17 of those indicated that their voters are divided into multiple districts. So that's a really good chunk of the towns that have multiple districts. And so you may have a little chart.
Thank you.
Very good.
One of the questions I asked was, how would an audit of your checklist to ensure all voters are in the correct district impact your town? And the majority of clerks with multiple districts in our association feel that while this would have some impact on their day-to-day operations, it would be negligible considering how important they feel it is to make sure that everything is in order, everyone's in the right district. There were 37% of them who were unsure, and they, for the most part, noted that they just need more information and training for themselves in their BCA on how that would work. And we have been in discussion with the Secretary of State's office on how we would make that happen. I also asked how they feel their office in if they feel their office in BCA would be reasonably able to take on the audit with ample training and resources from the Secretary of State's office. And of those clerks, about half feel like they could take it on with adequate resources and training. And then a portion of them that were unsure, again, just stated that they are interested in more information. I also was asked to check in with the association on how they would feel about a statutory opening time for polls on election day. That isn't something that we as an association had discussed previously. But as of our 126 responders to this question, almost half were not in favor, but about 25% were in favor. And of those not in favor, the general consensus was that they already know what works best for their towns, and every town is a little bit different. One clerk told me that they open at 6:30 a.m. and that they have a lot of voters that come in at that time. But I know that probably the majority of clerks would not be amenable to opening at 6:30 a.m.
Milk and time.
We are, when it comes to consent candidacy for write-ins, very happy with that. That would improve and streamline our processes by a lot. I haven't heard from a single member of our association who opposed that. And then the larger part of my testimony was on ranked choice voting. We were happy with the study. The largest concern our members have is the likelihood for increased voter confusion. And I think that the study would really help look into that. Yeah, the study pretty much touches on all of the points that were discussed with our members.
No, I'm glad that
We're happy with that.
concern is being addressed within the courts, right? You know, people understand the application, they understand the math behind it, but how does it functionally roll out into your lives and through you and the people you represent into the voters, so they understand the concept and principle of function.
Right, and that's what our members want to know is why is it being brought up, how would affect them, how it would affect their voters. And so I think that a study would be very helpful and we're happy with that.
Great. And I guess thank you for that. Any questions from the table right now? Representative Snow?
Did you ask any questions regarding mail-in ballots?
We didn't in the second polling, we did in the first, where a lot of the clerks who responded indicated that they are just concerned with the inconsistencies across
Right.
elections. It's confusing for clerks and their staff. A lot of clerks are only one or two in their office. And it's also confusing to voters. And so that was the biggest concern that they had with that.
Any other questions for Kelsey?
Oh, good job.
No, we appreciate that. If you don't mind hanging out for a little bit, like we're gonna keep having some conversation.
Yeah,
And do we still have Stacy with us?
I think she had
Kind
that.
of like a support.
Okay, gotcha. I just saw her noted here. So that took care of discussing that testimony. So, committee. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, let's open this up for some discussion, just basically like where we started, how it evolved, and where our heads are at for further amendments, since we have council sitting over here with us. So, with the bill, I think what I'll do is I'll start with the overview of the bullets. We'll just, how about we work off bullets on the overview, and we'll just discuss the concepts broadly. And I want to be conscious that Rep. Hango is run off to a meeting on another thing, but I want to utilize this time. So,
We're gonna do it.
First bullet. BRCV. Conversation
I'm glad,
evolving.
I'm glad to see it pulled in the first study.
Oh,
Yeah, well, yeah, not pulled, but, on hold. I guess is a better word.
Yeah.
Till the study is done.
okay. So report and findings, folks seem amenable with the report and findings.
Just kidding.
All right, that's gonna get the highlighter. Rep. Hango. Okay.
You're waiting for me?
No, we were just casually like shifting gears. And the committee
Your
just
seat was perfect. Yeah, Madison's doing the same thing.
triggeration.
Maybe.
So, we just heard this from the Course of Treasurers Association.
Oh, sorry I missed it.
That's all right. Now we are on to what I wanted to do for the next 45 minutes is just discussion on what we went over today with the draft. So we're working off the summary and just going bullet by bullet, just with a feeling for the big pieces. And before you walked in, it looked like we had a amenable consensus to RCV moving to the public.
Yes, I agree.
All right. All right. There it is. All right, next up, the major party candidates, from nominating a candidate for general election that the party failed to nominate a candidate for the general election.
But didn't we just remove sections 2 and 3?
Say again?
Didn't the proposal remove sections 2 and 3? Yeah, 1.6. Oh, section 2 amendments.
Yeah, section 2.
To prohibit a candidate from being nominated by any political party.
If I could just, yes,
Please.
It
Yeah,
may be more helpful to go part by part.
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
the bullet points.
yeah, no, that's a good.
Yeah.
call. Yeah, that kind of sticks around. Mr. Devlin, do you mind writing that, please? In case you get a little rating order.
Madam Clerk.
Okay,
State clerk.
that is a very good point, Representative Glidden. So why don't we just run through this thing page by page? All right, so I can just discuss the first page.
I'm seeing two computers in front of you.
Yeah. And now, section 2. Mhm. So. Thoughts there?
Wait, which docs are we sharing?
Yeah, what do
Section
you
2,
do?
section 2.
Okay, sorry, doing something else.
No, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
so we're on section 2.
Subject, in case of a vacancy, general election. Right, yeah, rule. So this is the piece where the ability for the nomination, if there was nobody who filed, no longer occurs. Am I speaking to that correctly?
Yes, if, Chair, you'd like, I can kind of summarize, sections 2 and 3 together.
Yes, please.
That would be helpful.
Broad strokes here. So, and, just so, committee members know what I'm looking at, I have the updated, bill overview for draft 1.6 in front of me. And I'll kind of be maybe bouncing between the two. Again, for the record, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. So part 2 of the bill, this is again, sections 2 and 3 to be read together, pertains to the failure of a major political party to nominate a candidate by primary. And essentially, if that is the case, then let's see, but my own train of thought there. Excuse me.
Basically makes the primary the deadline.
Sorry, Representative Hooper, could you repeat that?
Does it basically make the primary the deadline instead of what it used to be?
It forecloses a certain avenue for major political parties to put forward a candidate. If, they didn't find it necessary to do so in the primary. So 2 will amend 17 VSA 2381 to prohibit a candidate from being nominated by a major political party. Again, if that political party fails to nominate a candidate by primary. So primary comes and goes, no major political party, major political party did not have one of their candidates nominated through that process. They can't go back and nominate via committee. Section 3 will repeal a subsection of a different section of 17 VSA 2386, which has to do with the filing deadline associated with that, which is essentially junk law at that point if section 2 becomes that.
Any questions? Representative Waters?
Oh, I don't have a question, I just had a comment.
Oh, please.
All right, so right now, I will speak of myself because I did run for office. I had to get 50 signatures to get on the ballot to run in the primary. There was no one else running in my primary, but then you move on to the general election. If someone had run in a write-in campaign against me, let's say, they would have needed 25 signatures, or 25 votes, right, to be considered a viable write-in candidate. And then when you get to the point where someone's getting appointed by a party after the primary, no one ran in the primary, somebody could have, in theory, a political party could have just chosen to put somebody on the ballot, right, to run against me.
Correct.
There is a significant amount of work, a significant amount of time, a significant amount of money that is put into getting yourself on that primary ballot. You're really showing this is important to me. This is what I want to do. I want to be here and I'm willing to do what it takes to represent my constituents. My feeling is, if you are not going to do that work, and you are just going to, hang around and wait for a small group of people in your political party, I don't care what party it is,
Or your
could be
county-
mine, could be someone
County
else's.
party.
Yeah, your
County
town party, to just pick someone that they want and then slide in there at the last minute without having to do that work. It doesn't seem, oh, my dad, his favorite thing to say whenever I said this was life isn't fair. But I feel like in this opportunity we had, like in this situation, we have an opportunity to sort of make life fair in a way. I was just gonna say, it's not fair, the way that it is, but we have the ability to make it more so. Keeping in mind, the goal is not to get like a particular person or a particular party elected, but that the goal is to create a system of elections and voting that represents the people who are voting the best that we possibly can. And to allow these kind of scoot in at the last second or, oh, wait a second, we just got mad at this person during the primary, we're gonna throw someone in there. Like, I don't know, I made that situation up. But you know what I mean? To allow for those unknowns, it doesn't seem right to me. And so I personally feel like section 2 is important and I fully support it.
I second.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and I thought Representative Shive had an interesting case, like I've been referring to it as like a Russian testing, right? You know, like it's used references, it's like 50, then 25,
Yeah.
then 3. Like, why do less opinions become more valuable as you get closer to an election?
But correct me if I'm wrong, did we not change it that if you're gonna do a write-in candidate, you have to have the same as you would have to do if we were doing a, petition? Did we not change that?
That's
That's
what we
what
were
we're doing.
asking.
Yeah, no.
In the latest
It's saying
draft.
but not for is.
Right, so I totally agree with number 2, but in your scenario, you were saying that they would only have to get 25 as a write-in, but I thought we
Right,
changed
sorry,
That's
that.
I
current
was,
law. That's current.
I was
Yeah,
saying.
Carla, but we have it in there to change it, so they have to get the
Yes.
same.
Yeah, be like
I
50,
totally
50.
agree, and section 3 then gets taken out completely.
Mhm.
And so that prevents, okay, then the next part, section 3 talks about the one bite candidacy, which is what we're talking about. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which
I-
is a different
Yeah,
conversation.
different conversation. So, yeah, I'm completely in favor of part 2.
Okay, so we are cool with 2 and we are cool with the language as it exists as a removal with 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love concurring. All right. So
Yes, yeah. I'm sure we talked, I'm sure we talked about it. Okay.
All right, cool.
So can I clarify one thing, please, Chair? Just because we're looking at this overview that Tim has so wonderfully created for us.
Hold on, I can't
Um,
hear.
What?
Their side conversation, I can't
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, chatterbox.
So, just to clarify, so we were just talking, it says part 2 on the document that Tim gave us, which talks about section 2 and section 3. And then the next thing at the top of page 2 is part 3, but we're talking about section 4 and section 5, just to get us all on the same page.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So real quick, sections 2 and 3, did that not apply to independence?
Say that again, sir?
Independence,
Yes.
is their deadline,
That is a different part of it,
right,
because they don't.
but aren't we also gonna update that deadline in this bill?
Did it last
About
year.
it last biennium.
Mhm.
I don't know if we brought it up.
We have not discussed that at all
Yeah,
within the context of this bill.
we haven't really touched independence in this bill much.
It's not a major part.
But we did last year though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
biennium,
Yeah.
2023,
It- what?
January.
Mhm.
5 days, right?
I can't recall. That would be a question for.
I believe.
These could be things we could flag for next year's miscellaneous election bill if we wanted to bring those back up again.
We could also.
That's 5 days.
Well, I mean, I would need to understand like what the question is and what the solve looks like, right? So what is the question?
I don't think I have one yet, but.
Formulate, reassess. Hold on. I mean, I'm not opposed to, it, but just hone it in.
And throw everything in the soup.
I mean, yeah.
That's a good combo.
Pretty big soup. All right.
Okay,
All right.
So the next part of the bill has to do with so-called one by candidacy. So sections 4 and 5 to be read together. Section 4, I should just say, in general, the principle is that if a candidate runs in a primary for a major political party and loses, they then can't thereafter go and be nominated by either a minor party or run as an independent. And so 4 has to do with winning the nomination from another political party, and then 5 would be as the independent candidacy. So more particularly, section 4 creates a new subsection C in 17 VSA 2381. They'll read, in no event shall a candidate who loses a major political primary be nominated to appear on the general election ballot pursuant to the subchapter by the committee of any party other than the party for which the candidate appeared on the primary ballot. And then 5 will have similar language, adding a new subsection B to another section 17 VSA 2401, mirroring that in section 4, which will read, a candidate who loses a major party primary for any office shall not appear on the general election ballot as an independent candidate, the same office versus candidate lost the primary election. So there's that little caveat there for not the same office.
Everything waters in it.
This, section 4, the way it's worded, that allows, for if something should happen to the candidate who won the primary, they move to, and then they can't run anymore, or don't want to run anymore. It doesn't prohibit that party from having another candidate. It doesn't.
No, and
Okay.
actually, this can be seen in section 2 of the bill on page 3. This is just coincidental language is kept in here for House another amendment that we just discussed. So
Yeah.
let's see. The candidate may also be nominated by the party that is, have the candidate's name printed on the general election ballot. If any of the following circumstances arise, vacancy on the general election ballot due by death, removal, withdrawal. Yeah, so if you move then that's for everyone, but not for a major failure for a major political party to nominate candidate for primary.
I'm just gonna keep raising my hand.
No, it's fine. No. I mean, we're semi-formal with this
Okay,
discussion
I just
anyway.
wanted to remind everybody, just to make sure that we all remember that this is when Representative Duke came in and spoke to us about how she ran against the same candidate twice.
Twice.
In a primary and a general election, and nothing changed except the voting date, I think, on the postcards or something, so that's the inspiration behind this.
And that was not an isolated occurrence. That was just the most recent one. I'm gonna go with BL, then Rep. Morgan.
All right, I just wanted to be sure, because, so the way this is written, it wouldn't be, the only way a major party could put someone in on the ballot would be if the candidate they already had on was withdrawal, died, or moved for some reason, or was removed.
Right.
Then they could put someone in there, but they had to have run a candidate first.
Yes.
Okay.
Representative Morgan, I think I had you next.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe I'm missing something here, but on top of page 4, Tim, C, doesn't on page 3, we were just talking about, Shay doesn't A1 wipe that out? Doesn't that, is that duplicative in a sense, or am I reading that wrong?
It's a good question for council, not me.
Yeah, no,
Page 3A, was
One.
talking about when a major political party political parties may nominate candidates. And then, let's see.
I'm looking at the second half of it, but not for the failure of a major political party to nominate a candidate by primary.
Mhm.
Are we saying the same thing in indirect fashion with C on the top of page 4? No, am I missing something? In other words, you don't have that opportunity for the major parties, county party structure to go in and nominate somebody behind them. I mean, not behind them, but nominate a person if there's a vacancy there, not by death, moving, or withdrawal? Or is it a slight variation to that?
I would say they're distinct.
Okay.
In 3A, we have, circumstance where somebody is running, but I guess in our context of the conversation, we're describing a few different possibilities. So somebody is running and either they die or they are removed or withdrawal. Then in that case, the major political party can step in and nominate somebody. Unless, but if they didn't have anybody running and then they major political parties may come in. Now turning to 4, one by candidacy. So here we have somebody who's running a major political party primary. So that checks the box off. They don't die, they don't withdraw, they don't bow out of candidacy otherwise, but they just straight up lose.
Yeah.
In that case, they're prohibited from advancing to the next section, general election, and they can't run
Understood.
again, under Bull Moose Party or as
Right.
independents or something like that. They've
Okay, so,
blocked from advancing
so A1
in another
strict,
form.
maybe I'm just because I'm reading that wrong, and with what Shay said, I took the but not for piece to also say the same thing, but it's only in relation to those 3 distinct things. Gotcha. Okay, so got it. I'm good.
Hoover of Burlington, then VL.
The second citation is kind of a notwithstanding what happens in the first.
Sure, of 2381, do you mean it's notwithstanding
Further-
the
further
other language in
limits-
2381 or? in the-
Further limits consideration of an individual for.
Yes.
Brother, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear you. What was it?
Further limits, adoption of an individual by a party, so it's,
Understood.
takes it down to the one person thing.
Okay, and I just wanted to make sure because, well, speaking of the situation that happened before where somebody had to run against someone twice after they changed parties. In the section where it says about the only time they can do it, this is section 3, section 2. That and that would be if the person won that primary, correct? If somebody won the primary and then they died or removed or withdrew, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so if there were 2, and I'll say Republicans because I'm a Republican anyway, but if there are 2 Republicans, example, running in the primary, one lost, the other one that won then died.
Mhm.
The one that lost could not be put in by the party based on section 4 of in no event. I want to make sure that that can't happen. So somebody wouldn't have to run against the same person twice, a person that lost.
In that
Would they be
in that
excluded?
situation,
That case, no, the party could nominate him, right?
Could the party nominate them even though because of section where they said no second bite of an apple? So if you lost for a major party, but you were running against another person of the same party and you lost to that person,
I think that's different.
so
is that different or is that the same? I'm trying to figure that out. Does that
Yours-
Normally, you
exclude?
have 2 people running for
Yeah,
the same party.
So the language of section 4 is pretty wide, broad. And in no event shall a candidate who loses the major political party be nominated to appear on the general election ballot. Let's see, pursuant to this subchapter by the committee of any other party other than the party for which the candidate appeared on the primary ballot.
So you
Okay,
could-
okay.
Yep.
So in that
Do you have a
case, they
question,
could.
No, I'm just saying, so you could, so the person dies, then yes, they could be,
Yes.
says they could, which makes sense.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
runner-up.
Yeah. and
The
that was
logic's
whole
there.
Point, it wasn't,
Yeah, yeah.
it was just like alleviating this
Yeah, yeah.
where back to the Russian nesting doll concept, right?
Yeah.
It was just seeing the closer you got to election day, it was like less input on how
Yeah.
the candidate gets on.
But that's a real major exception.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yep, okay.
Thank you for clearing that up, because had me confused a little bit, but I wanted to.
That's a good question.
No, and this is the point of this right now, Rep. Confident, is like to make sure I have a very clear understanding, because this thing is getting dialed in for showtime.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Next.
Any other
chapter.
questions about one by candidate? Moving on to part 4, cross nominations.
So, well, hold on, good point, Bob. We're all cool with that now? Everybody's got a clear
Mhm.
understanding
Yeah.
of?
Mhm.
Yes, all right, right on.
So section 6-7 will have to do with cross nominations, or typically for the term fusion candidates as well. And again, just to refresh everybody's memories, this is the process in which a candidate may run for office while being affiliated with multiple political parties. Together, so it was a typo, and the outline should be section 6 and 7 again. Will limit candidates running only under one party. 6 in particular will add a new subsection, subdivision 5 to 17 VSA 2472 as contents of ballots, stating that, quote, a candidate shall list up to one party next to the candidate's name on the general election ballot. And then 7, section 7 that is, will amend 17 VSA 24.7, the choice of party balance. So that a candidate must choose a single nomination among any parties nominating the candidate, inform the Secretary of State of that choice before the printing of the ballots for the general election. So 6, again, we have a listing of only up to one party, you can use none. Well, that's why that language is phrased in that manner. It's the name of the general election ballot. And if the candidate is nominated by multiple parties through whatever process, it is up to that candidate to choose one and then inform the Secretary of State of that choice.
I have,
Table, hands,
Well,
lock. It's the point of the exercise.
I have a question. Okay, it's easier for me to say this in like a hypothetical way and then ask you.
Sure.
So say this past year, people really wanted to vote for Harris in my district. And so they wanted the Democratic ballot to do so. But they also really loved a progressive in my district who was running for Senate. Could they take the Democratic, if this passed as written, could they take the Democratic ballot, vote for Harris, write in, do a write-in campaign, and write in the progressive candidate on the Democratic ballot? And then if they got 4 million votes, write-ins, whatever, they won, what would you do? Would they still be listed as progressive? Or would that be, you see what I'm saying?
You talking about in a primary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I woke up at 4 a.m. and thought this up, and I couldn't answer it because I'm not an attorney, so I'm asking you.
So, happy to discuss. So in general, the way this is constructed, that if a candidate, let's say, there's one of the classic Vermont ways of winning a balloted primary, and then where they appear on it, ballot, or say major political party, and then there's a write-in campaign that coincides with that to win nomination by another major political party or minor party, whatever that is. That individual could still win both, but then at that point, they would have to choose exactly how they would want to have their name presented on the general ballot, the election ballot, that is. So they would say, okay, I want the D or the R or the P, not a combination of any of those, or whatever else of the party they want. And they would then inform the Secretary of State office at that point, and then they, as would appear on the general election, with that letter is on the ballot there.
So there would still be a path forward for someone and they wouldn't have to change their party if they want to write-in campaign on another major political party's ballot.
They could win multiple nominations, or be nominated by multiple parties, provided by way put that. Win some, and then as form as a nomination, and then they would have to select it, of which then be represented by one party going forward for the general election.
So,
Did you have?
Yes. So it couldn't happen with a Kamala Harris because that's a March primary. The presidential is a March primary. It could happen in the state primary in
Or state
August,
primary or whatever.
where they
yeah.
took took the Republican ticket for Phil Scott and then wrote in a progressive on the Democratic ticket. So,
I just wanted to clarify. I think you did just clarify this, just to be perfectly clear. You could receive a nomination as a progressive candidate and a Democratic candidate and a Republican candidate, let's say. You could win the nomination with write-ins and the primary you chose for yourself and write-ins in the other two parties. You could win all of those
Mhm.
and all of those votes would count for you. It's just when you move on to the general election, this would require you to choose one of those designations. Okay, thanks.
Bob?
So,
Yes, no.
Yeah.
so if we're running elections based upon parties, when you, in Mary Catherine's example, when you sort of do a write-in of another individual, who did not declare they were gonna be running in a particular primary, and they get votes that are outside that particular primary and maybe even over into a different party, we're tallying the votes cumulatively so that, or are they distinct in terms of this being an election and a Republican being an election and progressive being an election?
Right,
So-
so in order to,
So in this example, there had to have been another candidate that wasn't the write-in, that was already qualified to be on that ballot.
Mhm.
But the write-ins apparently won. Or maybe not, maybe the write-ins did not win that election, but there were enough write-ins that it got carried over to a different election. Is that a problem? Is that a possibility?
I apologize, I'm not quite following.
I don't blame you for not.
I think it's important to think of each nomination, party's nomination as distinct from.
Yeah,
As
but
far as who is voting in each.
if you think of it as three individual elections. And go to the Republican Party to nominate somebody for a District 18. And the candidate that's the nomination of the party, this person that filled out the form, wins the actual Republican primary, but there were enough votes for someone else as write-ins that they passed the threshold for being counted. Is that primary material? Where did those votes get recorded? Ultimately, is it the person who won the primary, or is it the collective number of votes that go to the individual's name? Is it possible to get elected on a different primary by having write-ins on a different political party's primary?
So if I'm understanding it, a candidate who is, you can really, as far as I understand it, that they run in one major political party's primary, and then in order to win nomination for other major, let's say, Progressive Party or the Democratic Party, Republican Party, they could win nomination by ballot, but they would have to there would be a write-in campaign to make sure primary is on both, what's it about?
They would have to win. Not just a significant number of votes in the Democratic primary or whichever primary.
So,
they would be.
right, if you were running as a Democrat and then you have also a write-in campaigns to receive the Republican nomination, you would have to win that Republican nomination too, or next
Good.
year. But in this circumstance, you'd still then have to choose among those.
The choose thing is a little weird too, but I understand.
Well, that dude just pissed off Boyd and Coffin.
This fun.
Something. I think just one or two clarifying questions. The ballot right now, general and primary, when it lists party, it says party, right? Not parties. Right, that's it.
As far as when you see the candidate's name, and then currently right now, I believe we could have a small indicator of exactly what parties.
But the label on the ballot says party,
Yes,
not
not primary.
right?
Right.
So, and we don't have a major party that is like a fusion party in Vermont. There's no Democrat Progressive Fusion Party. Those are two separate parties.
Yes. Yeah, no, the idea behind fusion is that you're using two distinct parties versus starting off with a party that has been melded from two pre-existing parties. That would just be a new party, and then you actually, when you have to get into this, there was some sort of, Democrat, Republican kind of thing. However, fine.
Sandy.
So back to the three ballots like Bob was saying. So you've got the R, the D, and the P. And the R gets 40 votes, and then a P gets 45 votes on that write-in campaign on the R ticket. She wins the R, he or she wins that Republican nomination. So then, this is what we've been talking about. So then when it go to the general, she still wins the primary on the progressive as well. That's where you get the fusion of the R and the P on the ballot. Currently.
If you select it, right?
No, when they can't win on the ballot, when the ballot is printed, because she won the Republican nomination and she won the progressive nomination. So when the general ballot,
Sir,
But you're also allowed to reject it, right?
right. When she files for her general election paperwork, she can put on both because she won both nominations. You'll see that. You'll see RPs, you'll see RPs, you'll see PGs. No, not PGs. P-
I saw someone tell me that wasn't.
PDs. Yeah.
All right, so this is gonna, I don't mean to jump overboard or anything here, but like, we've got like a couple of others, like, let's dog ear this one for further discussion. I wanna go
Okay.
through.
Okay, I got questions.
No, I know, and I
Me
understand
too.
that, but I also wanna be respectful of the clock and lunch and go through some more meat, so we know we gotta talk about that more. Let's
Yeah.
push forward.
Okay.
This is-
I want to
20 minute-
remove part 4, just want to say that.
No, thank you. I heard that very clearly, sir. And we're gonna have a deeper conversation about it. So,
Do I get the final question?
go for it. Yeah.
Say there have been candidates for all three major parties file to run. You get to the primary and the Republican candidate has received the most votes in the Republican primary, but also received more write-ins than the Democratic and Progressive candidate received votes. Do all three candidates still progress to the general or just that one candidate because they received all top votes?
So the Republican in this hypothetical would win outright each one. However, if they, under here, this, part of the bill, part four, they would then have to select one.
Yeah.
And they would have to, bow out of, or shed themselves of the other two. In which case, then there's an opportunity for the other two parties. Now, if we look at the other sections here that we're talking about before, so we go back up to, we consider things like, did they run, anybody? And if they didn't, then they can't nominate. If somebody, died or was removed or, what is the exact language? I forget. They're qualified. Yeah, basically renounce the nomination, then the party is then enabled to go and nominate. The replacement.
Yeah. Thank you. I guess I just highlight that for further conversation as I don't know, I haven't fully formulated my next thought, but just there's a lot of back and boxing out that could possibly still happen with the in moving forward.
No, that's why we're doing this conversation. We gotta really have a firm understanding, yeah, so I do wanna be conscious of time though, so let's keep, we have clearly flagged this one for further consideration.
And Representative Boyd, that's it. I'm gonna think about that a little bit more
Okay.
and actually get back to you. So rereading this, which
Yeah,
so avoid confusion. I'll speak.
all the hypotheticals.
Yes, what was the hypotheticals? All right, let's keep going section by section. We're gonna talk about this more later,
So
focus. I wanna go through the stuff we know we wanna hold or take.
Next part of the bill is part five. This is just the one section 8 having to do with mail-in ballots for primary and general elections. And this will amend 17 VSA 2537A to expand the mailing of ballots to include regular primary elections.
And so. Conversations that are around this one.
Yeah, we just said that's just simply gonna be, report.
Yep.
That's where we're at.
That sounds good to me.
Yep.
Yep.
Everybody concurs with that one?
Yep.
Mhm.
All
Yes.
right, cool. That one, on the next edit, thank you.
I was gonna, one note quickly.
That was part five we were just talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The mail-in ballot.
I believe we also agreed on the same thing, part six too, did we not? Just to move it along. Part six was the electronic ballot return. We're not quite ready for that.
Yes, we are doing the same thing there.
Okay.
And this is section 9 and as currently, got 1.6, it is, indeed a report. Part 7 has to do with candidate demographic information. It's the sections 10 through 12. And together will enable the collection of demographic information voluntarily provided by candidates running for local school boards, county and state offices, specifically the name, gender, age and race or ethnicity. And then once collected would be passed on to the Secretary of State's office. And just a refresher, Secretary of State's office was provide testimony on this about removing sections 10, 11 and modifying section 12. And I can speak to what's on the page, speak if you want.
If that has the support of town clerks, and it has support of the Secretary of State's office, then I think we move ahead and make the amendments
Agreed.
that were suggested earlier today, right? Don't you think so?
Yeah.
I think that makes the most sense.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Part
Add
8
that
of
to
the
the
bill.
list for the next day? Yeah.
Part 8 of the bill has to do with write-in candidate registration and minimum thresholds in primary elections. And this is sections 13, 14, and 15 that will together require write-in candidate for the General Assembly and county office and state office or federal office to register is by filing a consent candidacy form no later than 5 p.m. on the second Friday preceding the primary election. And I just want to note here that the Secretary of State's office provided testimony about I'll describe as inadvertent removals of some of the this similar language, the presidential primaries, because they're wrapped up in the ranked choice voting things, and those can be inserted back.
VL.
Yeah, this is probably leads into what I was asking before on this, for the writing candidates. You have to notify ahead of time that you actually want to be a writing candidate,
Yes.
okay? So going back to the fusion candidates, you would have to intentionally want to be a fusion candidate because you would have to announce that you're gonna do a write-in, because if you didn't announce you were gonna write in on a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot, all those write-ins wouldn't count because you did not declare. So you would have to intentionally say, I want to be a fusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Genius.
And that's the point I was gonna bring up earlier.
And that's what we like.
We just keep opening Pandora's box over here. I'm so sorry.
But
He's
that,
spot on.
that
Yeah.
clarifies
That
it
could be
and
mine.
That clarifies what
that's
you
the
asked.
intent.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yes.
That was the intent of your link.
That was the
Representative
intent.
That's what you were trying to say,
Yeah,
but I needed the section to go to.
Good
need
job,
a-
BL.
I need a
Picking up on
whiteboard.
that.
Does that make section 4 moot or part 4? I mean.
No, it's
No,
clar-
no, it's
it
clarifying.
strengthens it, actually.
That was intentional on our part, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, we'll go with
Just
that.
wanna see if we can catch it.
Right, yeah. Do the test.
That's a
We'll
genius.
take the credit on that one, even your little.
Nice, yeah.
Red Coffin, nice work.
Good job.
Moving on,
Good sleuthing.
we go back and approve.
Process representative, I'm happier in the room. Boyden and Hooper.
No, I'm just sticking my thumb up.
Okay.
Can I just circle back to the hypothetical I brought up? So then, in that case, all three candidates would continue because you cannot file a consent form for every single party. Or could you?
I don't know.
As like,
That's
you
the
could
question.
file a
That's
writing
interesting.
campaign for.
I have to double check that.
Okay.
We have a mess.
That makes it a little messy.
We have a problem.
Okay.
Houston, we have a problem.
All right, well,
I
like,
think it's
let's,
fun.
we know we're gonna talk about the fusion piece later. Let's talk about this piece in collaboration with it, and for lack of a better term, how they fuse. So. All right. We'll just like go
Officially.
through the conversation on that.
Can are we gonna keep going or are we gonna stop?
We
Yeah,
got 10 minutes, we're gonna keep going.
Mhm.
Sarah, what's
Any conversation about part 8 at all, or?
So we just had it.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so part 9 is campaign finance. This is sections 16 through 19. Particular 16 and 17, together will remove various monetary thresholds. So $5 or $500 expenditure contribution line, or not limit threshold. So that instead of surpassing a certain dollar amount, all candidates, so those that surpass it, are to register with the Secretary of State with the necessary financial information, regardless of any monies received and spent. So we have similar amendments in 16 and 17, and then in 18, we'll amend the definition section, and here is the removal of the definition for independent expenditure only political committee, and a modification of the definition of political committee / political action committee. Let's see, again, from any two individuals to any one person that accepts contributions of $1,000 or more, or makes expenditures of $1,000 or more to your election cycle. And then also creates a definition for the term public question campaign. And I'll remind the committee that the Secretary of State's office has offered changes to that definition that they highlighted in the testimony. And then section 19 will repeal 17 of VSA 2970, campaign reports of other entities, public questions, with a modification of the definition of political committee, which has its own reporting requirements under 17 VSA 2964. This section that is purpose.
Any questions on these conversations? I'm also scanning the sheet that was provided by the Secretary of State's office, and the suggestions in and around this. So I felt that everything that was shared with us by the SOS was logical. Yes. Are we cool with including that language in these sections for this conversation?
Quick question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Morgan.
Uh, again, let's use a hypothetical candidate gets $1,000 donation from their county political party. That's it? Under this, am I reading that correctly? They could not get anything further in that cycle, or am I reading
No,
that
this doesn't
incorrectly?
impose any limitations on contributions.
It's just the threshold.
Identify.
Right, it's when to register.
Okay, that's, I mean, that's just threshold. Okay, gotcha. Just want to make sure. Okay. Yep. Okay, thank you.
And actually, there are contribution limitations. This is-
Yes, oh,
this
sure.
is- this is
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of
yeah,
them,
yeah. I gotcha. Thank you.
All right, cool. So we're cool with that.
Okay.
And these conclusions. All right, moving on.
The next part of the bill has to do with the audit of voter checklist and district boundaries. It's the one section 20 of session law. And again, just like to remind the committee that the Secretary of State something offers some modifications to that some language there. Haven't discussed any of them.
Yeah, well, I'll be.
Are we accepting?
I think it's logical to look at it through that lens and then.
Well, I mean, it's pro forma. If, are we accepting everything in Secretary of State's?
Suggestions.
Yeah.
Like, are you talking like across the board?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally found them available. I'm looking at these right now, section by section through just to make sure everybody else found them available.
Yeah.
Cool.
Works for me.
All right.
The next part of the bill pertains to deadline modifications and miscellaneous clarifications. This is kind of the grab back part of the bill. We have, I can just kind of run through these quickly if you like. Section 21 will make explicit that voters may not vote in multiple jurisdictions. Section 22 would then repeal then redundant section having to do with how voters vote in different areas. Section 23 will modify the definition of campaign to mean any organized or coordinated activity undertaken by one or more persons instead of two. That should sound familiar. It's similar language to what appeared in the campaign finance section as well. Let's see. Section 24 will allow election officers to return defective petitions and signatures. That is to a candidate within 2 business days from receipt instead of 72 hours. And section 25 will require party chairs and secretaries to file digital records when filing a certification or a certificate of organization. 26 will, let's see, insert a deadline of quote the 3rd Monday in July before each primary election. We vote for town party members to nominate candidates for this piece. 27 will let's see, remove the requirements that post-election audits of the vote tabulator be random. And section 28 will permit town clerks to begin processing mail-in ballots 45 days before the election day instead of 30 days.
Just to clarify, processing does not mean counting.
No.
Okay.
Part 12. And Dr. forgive me, this is Attorney Anderson's sections, however, have to go through them quickly here. Actually, at this point in the summary, I just provide links to amended language, but for the most part, these numerous changes have to do with open meeting laws, not applicable to annual meetings, cannabis establishment votes and Australian ballots, annual and special municipal meetings, Australian ballot systems, fire districts voters, vacancies in town offices, and authority constables. Dead modification from as I understand.
Or was that this one?
Did we put anything, did we amend anything in the local elections regarding, declaration of candidacy. That they have to declare their, position that they're gonna run for town moderator or select board or whatever. Did we put that in there that they have to declare?
You mean to solve the?
Instead of for the write-ins. If they're gonna do a write-in campaign, they have to declare their
Oh.
candidate, their, to declare as a
Well, you
candidate.
I don't think we just.
I would imagine the form would sort of follow this kind of. Where you have.
No, but I want them, yeah, I want to be, I was asking if we don't have it in there that they have to declare just like they do for a primary and. It would be easier for everybody to understand that they're all the same, that,
I believe the consent to write-in, be a write-in candidate. It's the General Assembly and up. So not select board, town moderator, anybody.
so it's not local elections.
No.
Yeah, it's like, I think state rep is the floor is what you're saying, and then it's setting everything up to then constitutional state officers.
I believe General Assembly, any county office, state office, or federal office.
But
That's a
they're,
part of section 8 and, I mean, part 8.
And I'm seeing nods from the gallery.
so my question is, do you have any objection of adding local from that?
Well, so we recommended it for statewide and up because the likelihood of a write-in really wanting those roles is less. And we typically have candidates for those roles. At the local level, you know, a lot of these nominations happen on the floor or happen the day of. So we were concerned about requiring registration of write-in when local elections, sometimes we don't have anyone running at all. And someone is convinced the day of to run for something. So that was our rationale. That doesn't mean that the committee has to co-sign the rationale.
I would. No. I would just say that if you were an Australian ballot town that votes offices, that it would be nice to have it consistent. So that clerks would know that, yeah, we have a candidate. Right up to, I don't care, 5 o'clock the night of the day of the vote. Just come in and tell the clerk, oh, by the way, I'm doing a campaign. I mean, you'll see my name on here. I've done a lot of outside the
Yeah.
polls.
No, I understand
You
what
know,
you're saying.
just so you know, it's every night at 9 o'clock, you're not looking for Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse.
We're obviously not voting on this today, so why don't we just like dog ear that for consideration,
Okay.
for further conversation, once we come back and talk about the other pieces that we flagged for further.
For the Australian ballot towns, okay,
We will flag that for further discussion.
thank you.
Please proceed, sir.
And that will bring us to the effective dates.
All right.
All month.
And look at that, on time and almost on budget. All right. So we got that point that got brought up, and we got fusion to still consider. We agreed to include aspects of amended testimony earlier. And everybody is in agreement to this as a moving and evolving product within the words I just said.
It depends on what happens to part 4.
Well, that's the part where we're gonna do the amendments that we all agreed on, and we're gonna talk about the stuff that we're still unsure on,
Yeah,
right?
just to remind everyone, when is the discussion on this going to continue? Tomorrow morning?
Sure. We'll find the time. We'll find the time on break when the general YouTube public doesn't need to see us discuss what time we're gonna widget or what's it. I just wanted to.
Oh, I
make
wasn't
sure.
talking about the schedule, like, for some reason I know it's already on the schedule, so I just wanted to touch.
It was.
I didn't mean to throw, oh, it was. Sorry,
It isn't.
delete,
It was, but too many questions.
delete.
It was, that's why we're not. Okay,
So we
so
did it tomorrow.
the directive is clear. We're gonna do everything except for those two pieces. It's agreeable. We're gonna continue discussion on those two other pieces.
Okay.
What
Perfect.
Sandy just brought up in the fusion conversation, right?
Yeah,
Ready?
And to
All
what,
nodding heads. Let's just do that.
tomorrow.
and to
All
what
right.
conversation?
So what you brought up.
Whatever.
Oh.
Mary Catherine abstained. All right, that was a lot of work. Good job, everyone. That was dense. That was heavy. That was a lot of bill that we have needed to focus on. I appreciate you all very much.